Aisha radiallahu anha, we might spend a bit of time, but it's just sometimes it takes somebody to sit and really think about it, like what happened in her life. And one of the things that I really felt I gained from studying her life was, how, so she's like this teenager basically when the Prophet ﷺ passes away, right? She's like probably 19, something like this. And she's got the rest of her life ahead of her, if you want to look at it like that. And she's not going to get married, right? Because it's forbidden for the mothers of the believers to get married after the Prophet ﷺ. She has that status of mother of the believers. Her father passes away 2 years later, and then he's buried in her house as well. Omar passes away a few years later. So she's throughout this period, I really got the feeling from everything that I read about her that she has a particular role, or she's kind of maybe searching out what her role is.
Yes.
She doesn't have children of her own either, right? If you have children of your own, you'd be very busy, I think, with them, right? But she has nephews and nieces. And then she gets talked into this, and she sincerely believes that that it's a positive thing for her to do. This big injustice has happened with the assassination of Uthman radiallahu anhu, and she gets convinced by her brothers-in-law, right? Because remember, Talha and Talha bin Ubaidillah radiallahu anhu and Az-Zubair bin al-Awwam, they were her brothers-in-law, right? One was married to Asma, and the other was married to Kulthum, who's Aisha radiallahu anha's little sister. And obviously they're from the 10 promised paradise as well, right? So they encourage her, and they believe that they're going on this journey to Iraq as a kind of like a protest, and to bring the people who assassinated Uthman radiallahu anhu to justice. And of course, just in brief, it ends in chaos. It was unintentionally that a war breaks out, battle breaks out. Ali radiallahu anhu, he wants to make sure that there isn't chaos in the ummah. He's trying to sort certain things out. He comes there, and some troublemakers cause trouble, and then through misunderstandings, there's this war that breaks out, or this battle, and it's the first time Muslims are fighting one another, right? So Aisha radiallahu anha, she's like beside herself. She did not intend for this to happen, She's there in her hodaj, which is like her little tent inside on top of the camel. Everyone knows her hodaj because it's very prominent, and there must have been some special colors on it or something, that made people know that this is the mother of the believers. And the Sahaba say to, or somebody says to her, sorry, not the Sahaba, but one of the governors, I believe, or a judge of Basra, he says to her, Ya al-Mu'minin, why don't you go out into the middle of the battle? When the people see you, they will stop fighting, because they will say, what is this? The mother of the believers, we can't allow this to happen, anything bad to happen to her. So she allows her camel to wander into the middle of the battle. And because everyone is in such a frenzy, they said that her hodaj looked like a hedgehog because of the arrows and spikes that, So Ali radiallahu anhu, apparently he, according to some sources, he asked his men to go and cause her camel to come down in order to bring her to safety,
right?
And so somebody goes out there and basically hits the legs of Aisha radiallahu anha's camel. Her hodaj comes crashing down, and there's silence. People are just shocked, like, what have we done? What have we done? And the battle ends. It's known as the incident of the camel, or some people call it the battle of the camel. Now, Aisha radiallahu anha, her brother comes and, takes her out of the hodaj, and she says, whose hand is this? Whose insolent hand is this? And he says, it's Muhammad bin Abi Bakr, her brother, who is with Ali, who's brought up by Ali. Anyway, and he brings her out, and then Ali brings her back to Medina in safety. And throughout that journey, and I think even beyond that, Aisha radiallahu anha regretted till the day she died
Right.
this journey that she made to Iraq. Okay, of
Mhm.
course she had good intentions. She thought that they were going to bring people to justice. It was the first time a great Sahabi like Uthman had been killed in this kind of way, right? In this kind of mob way. And the Sahaba were just beside themselves. They couldn't believe that, the Ummah had fallen to such a degree that they would allow somebody as prominent, as important, and beloved to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Uthman, for something like that to happen. So, we don't doubt any of their intentions, and they had good intentions, etc. But she regretted until the day she died, even on her deathbed, this going out, and she would always repeat the verses of Quran, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ, stay in your homes. Especially these verses were revealed, especially for the wives, But I think what happened after that is very important for us to think about, because I think Aisha radiallahu anha reflected on what her purpose should be. What should her role be? Because now she's probably in her 40s, I believe, when the Battle of the Camel happens. She's come back to Medina, and the first fighting between Muslims has taken place. After that, there's more things that happen, And so many of the Sahaba, including Aisha radiallahu anha, they realize, or they feel, that political intervention has caused so much harm, and maybe that's not their place. I think that's the conclusion that she kind of came to, that the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to her was stay in your home.
Right.
And what that means, and of course the rest of the ayah talks about how, and recite what has been revealed to you of the Quran and hikmah, right? Of the book of Allah and hikmah that has been revealed to you in your homes. So I believe that Aisha radiallahu anha really took those verses to heart, and she spent the rest of her life now dedicated to teaching the Sunnah, teaching the understanding of the Quran. And I think she realized that that was the highest value thing that she could do, right? Because she was in a very unique position. There were things that she saw that nobody else saw. Right? There were things that she asked about because of her curiosity, her personality, her youth, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told her that other people were not privy to, they weren't witness to, right? So I think she realized that. And also, another thing I was reflecting on is when she came back, remember Talha and Zubair have been martyred, or they've been killed, right? In that incident. They were leaving the battlefield, and they were killed. They were troublemakers everywhere who were trying to cause discord and harm. And so she's come back to her orphaned nephews and nieces, because Talha was her brother-in-law, right? So Talha bin Ubaidillah, his daughter was Aisha bint Talha, who went on to become one of the great scholars, right? One of the great narrators of hadith. And Aisha radiallahu anha was her main teacher, right? And she takes on Urwa bin Zubair, who was about 12 when his father, Zubair, is killed in, the incident of the camel. So he becomes her like son, she takes him on as well. And Qasim bin Muhammad, I mean, there's many, but I'm just mentioning 3 of them. Qasim bin Muhammad is her nephew as well, who is the son of Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, who, I think within a year or so, he's also killed in Egypt, right? So she has these orphan nephews and nieces, who she dedicates, not just them, but other people, who come to learn from her. They have to sit behind a screen, but her nephews and nieces, of course, they can sit with her, they can enter her room whenever they want, etc. And she dedicates the rest of her life to teaching them, to making sure they're the most knowledgeable people about the Sunnah. And then we get them in the next generation becoming what the seven fuqaha of Medina,
Yes, yes. Yeah,
the greatest narrators and the greatest scholars, right?
yeah.
So that was my long way of telling you and telling the brothers and sisters out there that I think this is a human condition, like
Yeah.
having to reflect and ask yourself, what is the best thing I could be doing?
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
think if somebody like Aisha radiallahu anha has struggled with it,
mhm.
we're going to struggle with it. But I think that's the most important question.